Welcome to episode 4 of the Police podcast.
I'm Rivers, and I will be joined with Aspen to discuss police brutality today.
So just a little recap of our goals and our purpose here. We're making this podcast for people who don't believe in the issue of police brutality or who don't believe that it's racially motivated. And we're just trying to basically convince you to try to sway public opinion overall and try to create change.
In our first 3 episodes, we defined police brutality and discussed its immorality and illegality. And we also talked about America in comparison with other countries, as well as the history of police in the United States.
And so this episode, we will talk about how police brutality impacts people of color today and the disproportionate rates of police brutality that are endured by people of color. And these disproportionate rates of violence towards people of color give us reason to believe that police brutality is racially motivated.
So Black people are significantly more likely to be killed by police than other groups of people. They are more likely to be unarmed at the time of violence. Black children are also more significantly likely to die at the hands of police than white children.
Black people only make up 13% of the U.S. population, but they make up 26% of total people killed by the police and 36% of unarmed people killed by the police. Black people are more than 2.5 times more likely to be killed by the police than white people, and Black women specifically are about 1.5 times more likely to be killed by the police than white women. Police are the 6th leading cause of death for Black men in America.
And Native Americans are also 3 times as likely to die at the hands of police than white people. They're the most targeted group of people by police in the United States. Now, some people say that Black people commit more crime, so it makes sense that they'd have more negative encounters.
However, this is absolutely not true. Studies show that Black people are not more likely to commit crime than white people are, and in fact, the likelihood that someone will commit a crime is about equal across races. Some studies even show that higher rates of white crime, so crime rates are definitely about equal between races.
Yeah, and so there's no correlation between race and crime whatsoever. As mentioned, they have similar crime rates and similar likelihood to commit crimes. However, statistics are often skewed to make it look as though Black people are committing more crime.
To begin with, there is a significant correlation to poverty and crime. Black people are more likely to be impoverished in this country due to decades of being discriminated against and not being able to accumulate wealth. So this can be one reason why statistics look like Black people commit more crime.
And Black neighborhoods as a whole are heavily over-policed, and as a result, Black people are charged with more crimes. And studies have shown over-policing of Black people and Black neighborhoods skews crime data and makes it appear as though they commit more crime.
A report to the UN on racial sentencing disparities in 2016 found that Black Americans comprised of 27% of all individuals arrested in the United States, which is double their share of the total population. Black youth accounted for 15% of all U.S. children, but made up 35% of juvenile arrests in that year. And Black people are 3.7 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana possession than white people, even though the rate of marijuana usage was comparable. So this study shows that even with comparable rates of crime and comparable likelihoods to commit crime, Black youth are constantly over-policed and over-arrested compared to white people.
Yeah, and crime databases only include convicted crimes, and Black people are convicted at much higher rates and for much longer periods of time, and this disparity can also skew crime data. For example, imprisonment rates for African American and Hispanic adults are 5.9 and 3.1 times the rate for white adults, respectively. So this idea that Black people are more violent than other groups is a narrative that hate groups have been perpetuating since racism first became a part of U.S. culture, and it has never been rooted in truth.
Since Black people are not more likely than white people to commit crimes, there's really no other logical reason for rates of violence that are so vastly disproportionate. And police going out and over-policing Black neighborhoods is actually a form of police brutality in and of itself.
And instances of police violence and over-policing against Black people when mapped out match up with areas that were redlined during segregation. And redlining was enforced only 3 to 4 generations ago. And these are still primarily areas where Black communities reside. This shows that entire neighborhoods and communities of Black people are being targeted, not just Black individuals. And multiple studies show that police over-monitor Black communities.
Practices like stop and frisk allow for blatant profiling in order for police to determine who is suspicious enough to stop. And similar occurrences happen when people are pulled over. So Black communities are targeted, but when Black people are out on their own, they are quite often pulled over or stopped and frisked just for being Black. The same report to the UN on racial disparities actually found that Black people are significantly more likely to be pulled over and significantly more likely to be frisked.
Now, what is implicit bias and how does it impact every white person in America? Implicit bias is a phenomenon that leads white Americans to view people of color in a certain way, even when we are not intentional about it. This means that every white person has some amount of bias or racism against people of color, even if we are completely unaware of it.
Harvard University actually conducted a study on implicit bias, and you can actually go participate in the study if you want. You go online and basically take these quizzes and do word correlation to see sort of how your mind automatically correlates certain things with white people or Black people. And these studies found that Black people are more likely to be seen by white people as inherently threatening or violent. And also, Black children are viewed as adults or older than they actually are. So, white people look at Black people and basically automatically take innocence away from them in their minds. And this isn't because of covert racism, but it is because of decades of brainwashing and propaganda being just fed to us in media, and these stereotypes that Black people are inherently more violent. And so this creates this subconscious connection, and this can explain why police often assume that toys, phones, and wallets are weapons, even in Black children.
Yeah, and Black on Black crime is often seen as a bigger issue than police brutality. However, Black on Black crime is a completely unrelated issue that is being attacked in order to divert from the real issue of police brutality. Also, every race is attacked or killed by their own race the most, and white on white crime is just as bad. This argument pushes the racist narrative that Black people are inherently more violent.
Another argument that people use a lot is that more white people are killed by police than any other race. And while this is technically true, there are more white people killed by police than other races based on numbers alone. That doesn't change the fact that police violence is disproportionately impacting people of color. So you kind of have to look at the proportion of people harmed by the police versus people in the country. So since Black people only make up 13% of the population, even though less Black people were killed, they still are way more likely to be killed. Um, so I hope that makes that statistic make a little bit more sense. And overall, I hope this episode really helped open your eyes as to the numbers and kind of understanding exactly how Black people are affected disproportionately by the police. This is the Police podcast, and we really appreciate you listening. Next episode, we're going to go over a couple potential solutions to the issue.